1. Christmas Doe. Just days before Christmas, on December 18, 1988, a logging truck driver stepped into the woods near an isolated garbage dump in Ware County, Georgia, to relieve himself, when he became curious about an old television console laying nearby. The man kicked it over and broke it open, revealing a black metal suitcase within. Inside the metal suitcase was a duffel bag. When the logger opened the bag, he found what he believed to be a small child's hand sticking out of the bag that had been filled with concrete. Upon further inspection, he found the decomposing body of a child. He immediately notified police. An Albany Herald newspaper was also found near the body. An autopsy was conducted on the girl's body, but no cause of death was determined because of the rate of decomposition. The little girl, believed to be about 3 or 4 years old, had been dead for about 2 months. Investigators also did not know if she might have been alive when sealed inside the suitcase. The child was found wearing a white knit pullover shirt with a red pony on the front, pajama bottoms, and a diaper. Her black hair was pulled back into a ponytail, and her right ear was pierced. A forensic sketch artist drew a composite of what the girl might have looked like based on skull features. The little girl was African American and wearing yellow barrettes in her hair when she was found. Some speculated the child was Kimberly Janice Boyd, who disappeared from South Carolina alongside her mother and her mother's friend. Boyd was later excluded as a possible identity for the unidentified child. A potential link to Albany, New York, was discovered later in the investigation process. Authorities worked with a local television station in 2009 to put together a news story for the public, but were unsuccessful with finding any additional leads. If you have any information related to this case, please call 1-800-843-5678. 2. Valerie Graves. During the Christmas season of 2013, Valerie Graves, a 55-year-old mother and grandmother, originally from Scotland, was house-sitting for her friends at a residence in Smuggler's Lane, Bosham, West Sussex, along with her family, which included her mother, sister, and sister's husband. The house was rather luxurious, worth an estimated £1.6 million, and was located down a private lane by the sea. During this time, several members of the family came and visited the Graves at the house over the holiday to celebrate the occasion and also to celebrate Valerie's birthday, which was on Christmas Day. On the evening of the 29th of December 2013, Valerie excused herself at around 10 p.m. and headed to the ground floor bedroom at the rear of the home. During the course of the night, Valerie was brutally murdered with a hammer while she slept. Her family, who were residing upstairs, were completely unaware of the crime until they discovered her body the next morning. She had suffered severe head and facial injuries. An autopsy later determined that the crime likely occurred around midnight. A patio door that led from Valerie's bedroom to the backyard was found unlocked. Following the murder, forensic teams searched the home and surrounding areas. All of Valerie's relatives and the neighbors were thoroughly and repeatedly questioned. A few days after the murder, a hammer was found by police at the entrance to the driveway of the Hart's farm on Hoe Lane, some 600 meters from the murder scene. Although recent rain had washed away much of the evidence from the hammer, both Valerie's DNA and partial DNA of an unknown male remained, and it was confirmed to be the murder weapon. A local man was arrested on the 14th of January 2014 and was questioned about the murder, but was bailed and released without further action. In January of 2015, Sussex police began a voluntary mass DNA screening program in Bosham, asking men aged 17 and over who lived or worked in the village or had visited the area at the time of the murder to give samples. To date, over 3,000 men have been eliminated, and authorities have not found a match to the DNA profile in the National DNA Database. Officers have interviewed more than 9,500 people in relation to the case, but no one has been charged with her murder, and it remains unsolved. 3. Mary Ann Fowler. On Christmas Eve in 2002, Ann Fowler was on her way from Louisiana to Texas to visit her incarcerated husband, Jerry Fowler, a former elections commissioner who was doing time in prison for bribery, when she stopped at a Subway sandwich shop at a strip mall in Port Allen. Shortly after purchasing some food, Ann disappeared. Investigators believed she was abducted from that location. Mary's belongings were found scattered on the pavement shortly after she disappeared, along with some of her acrylic fingernails, which were possibly torn off in her struggle with her abductor. Robbery was probably not the motive for her kidnapping, as her car was found to contain her purse, including her wallet and cash, as well as the food she had bought and some wrapped Christmas presents. Investigators checked footage from a nearby surveillance camera. Although it was hard to see anything at first, the FBI eventually enhanced the footage enough to make out the image of Ann being forced into a Chevy pickup truck before it sped out of the strip mall parking lot. At one point in the footage, the abductor's face can even be seen, but there was no way to enhance the image enough for a positive identification, and he remains unidentified. Jerry Fowler's lawyers, after learning about Mary, tried to get him furloughed from prison so he could help search for Mary, but they were unsuccessful. Investigators do not believe Jerry's criminal activities have anything to do with Mary's abduction. He died in 2009. Police have since speculated that Fowler may have been the victim of the infamous Baton Rouge serial killer, Derek Todd Lee, who is suspected of being behind the murders of at least 7 women in the region. Lee owned a pickup truck similar to the one seen in the surveillance footage, and cell phone records placed him nearby Mary on the day of the abduction. Police attempted to link Lee and Mary with DNA and were unsuccessful, but many investigators still believe Lee had something to do with Mary's disappearance. Although it is highly suspected that she was abducted and possibly murdered, the man and the pickup truck have never been located. Neither Lee nor anyone else has been charged in her case. She was declared legally dead in May of 2004, 17 months after she was last seen. 4. Latricia White. On December 17, 1993, 9-year-old Chance Wackerhagen left his mother's home in Kingsville, Texas, to go to his father's home in Lockhart. He was going to spend the holidays with his father, Lee Wackerhagen, and his longtime girlfriend, 38-year-old Latricia White. Chance was supposed to return to his mother on Christmas Day, but called her to request a few more days with his father. On December 27th, after not hearing from his daughter for a while, Latricia's father decided to visit her home. He was shocked to discover Latricia dead in her bed. She had been shot 6 times with a .22 caliber weapon. There was no sign of Chance or Lee, nor were there signs of a struggle. Investigators did find Chance's footprint in the blood at the crime scene, indicating he was there earlier when the murder happened, or shortly afterwards. Authorities initially believed Lee had murdered White and fled with Chance. Lee reportedly had a violent temper and was jealous and suspicious of White, and the couple had frequent, fierce arguments. Despite his known temper, Lee had no previous run-ins with the law, and Chance's biological mother even stated she doesn't believe he would be capable of hurting their son. Nonetheless, a warrant was issued for Lee Wackerhagen's arrest. However, there was still debate about whether Lee took Chance and went on the run as a fugitive, or if they were both victims themselves. 3 days after Latricia was found, Lee's green 1986 Ford pickup truck was found abandoned in a field in East Austin, Texas at 1 a.m., 30 miles from the crime scene. Inside the truck, authorities found Lee's hunting rifle, which had not been fired. They also found his checkbook, his wallet, a toolbox, a spare tire, and some blood-stained Christmas gifts, some of them unopened. Surprisingly, the blood did not match Latricia White, leading credence to the possibility that Lee and Chance fell victim to an unknown party who subsequently disposed of their bodies. The warrant remained active for 25 years, but there was no sign of either Lee or his son. In spring of 2016, authorities reopened the case and announced they had evidence that both Lee and Chance were victims of foul play. The last lead in the case occurred 4 months after Lee and Chance disappeared, where Chance's maternal grandfather got an anonymous phone call at his home. The caller said, "Help me," and then the line went dead. Chance's grandfather believed the call was from his grandson, but this has never been confirmed and the call was never traced. Tragically, Lee's father committed suicide in 1999, 6 years after the disappearances. Whether or not this had to do with Lee's case is unknown. No one knows if Lee and Chance Wackerhagen were murdered that Christmas or if they're still being held hostage or hiding out somewhere unknown. 5. Melissa Brannon. Melissa Brannon was born on April 13, 1984, to parents Michael and Tammy Brannon. Amidst rumors of infidelity with neighborhood women, Michael and Tammy would go on to separate and divorce. After the divorce, Tammy and Melissa moved to an apartment complex located close to the Fort Belvoir Army installation in Lorton, Virginia. On December 3, 1989, Melissa and Tammy went to a Christmas party at the apartment complex where they lived. Approximately 80 people had gathered for the celebration. At about 10 p.m., Melissa and her mother were getting ready to leave the party when Melissa went back in for some more potato chips. She was never seen again. When she was not found, foul play was suspected. A search began almost immediately, with over 300 volunteers participating. The group scoured the surrounding areas for days, but came back empty-handed. After the initial investigation, Caleb Daniel Hughes quickly became a suspect. He was a guest at the holiday party, and he had worked as a groundskeeper at the apartments for about 2 weeks before Melissa's disappearance. According to a number of witnesses who were at the Christmas party, Hughes had shocked neighbors with his inappropriate behavior. He had made unwanted advances to several female guests. Hughes had been sitting near Melissa when she was last seen and had left around the same time that Melissa was discovered missing. Hughes had a criminal record, however nothing violent or sexual. Investigators searched for Hughes after the disappearance was reported, but did not find him until 1 a.m. the next day. He had already put his party clothing in the wash. The police noted that Hughes had sliced off part of the soles of his shoes, possibly to remove blood evidence. The police had found another disturbing piece of evidence in the washing machine. Amongst the clothes was a sheath designed to hold a large knife. Although the police searched the rest of the home, the knife that the sheath held was not found. Moreover, Hughes' wife Carol reported he had returned home much later than normal that night. His vehicle had counted noticeably more miles than what it would usually have taken him to return from the party. Hughes claimed that the mileage was a result from a side trip he took to purchase a 6-pack of beer and then took a longer route home. But the police officials remained unconvinced as he claimed to have gotten home around 12:30 a.m. However, liquor stores in Virginia do not sell alcohol past midnight per state regulations. The FBI even took blood, hair, and fiber evidence from Hughes' maroon Honda and tested it in a forensic laboratory. It was found that Melissa could be the source of hair and blood, but so could 40% of the general population. Further testing ruled out Melissa as a source for the stains. However, rabbit hairs found in the car matched Melissa's rabbit fur jacket, and there were many blue fibers that matched her sweater and some red fibers consistent with her skirt. In 1991, Hughes was convicted of abducting Melissa with intent to defile. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison. He has maintained his innocence the whole time. He is an inmate at Bland Correctional Center, and his expected release date is October 2025. 2 other men were convicted of trying to extort ransom money from Melissa's mother shortly after her disappearance. These individuals were not connected to the abduction. Melissa has never been located, and foul play is suspected in her disappearance.